Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Good evening. You're watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman Television. First, the headlines. A distinctive participation of Royal Oman Police music in the International Music Display Festival in the Netherlands. With the approach of Eid al-Adha, an active commercial movement is witnessed in Eid Habta in the Wilaya of Nizwa.
Further radicalized young people.
And the British Prime Minister urges Parliament to vote in favor of Britain joining US-led airstrikes against Daesh militants in Iraq. Those were the headlines. Now for the news in detail. The Sultanate, represented by Royal Oman Police ROP, participated in International Military Music Festival Tattoo, which is held in Rotterdam City in Netherlands. ROP Music Band performed military musical show mixing between the international music and traditional Omani music. During the performance, the band presented show items that embodied through it the logo of the Sultanate and achieved an artistic item carrying the name of Oman. It also played some international music pieces with participation of all the 15th military music bands from various world countries. The show attracted the attention and applause of the audience for the band's excellent performance. The Ministry of Regional Municipalities and Water Resources pointed out that the law of illegal land grabbings, due to be issued soon, will include penal sanctions and fines. The Directorate General of Regional Municipalities and Water Resources in the Governorate of South Al-Batna stressed that the prospective law consists of new legislations that will specify the mechanism of controlling land grabbing and the consequences and penalties resulted from such acts, adding that the law will specify allocated lands to places of cattle herders. The Directorate also said that the penalties could even fine or jail the owners due to the obstacles it creates against implementing many plans. Eid al-Adha Habta in the Wilaya of Nizwa market witnessed an active commercial movement in its first day. The market was crowded with sellers and buyers. Habta is a station for sellers and animal breeders who consider it a good place to sell. Prices of local cattle reached around 300 Omani riyals. Tourists also enjoy Habta scenes which narrate the society's tradition that is mixed with social and economic dimension. Handicrafts and Omani halwa are also sold in Habta market. A workshop of women in the Omani legislation in the Wilaya of Deba in the Governorate of Musandam discussed law of Omani children. The workshop explained some shortage points in the law, stressing the importance of studying these weakness points. It aimed to present rights and duties of the woman, considering her active and important elements in building the community. His Excellency Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al-Abri, Wali of Deba, presided over the ceremony. British Prime Minister David Cameron urged lawmakers today to vote in favor of Britain joining US-led airstrikes against Daesh militants in Iraq. Hours ahead of a crunched parliamentary vote, he is expected to win.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The question before the House today is how we keep the British people safe from the threat posed by ISIL, and in particular, what role our armed forces should play in the international coalition to dismantle and ultimately destroy what President Obama has rightly called this network of death. Mr. Speaker, there is no more serious an issue than asking our armed forces to put themselves in harm's way to protect our country. And I want to set out today why I believe that is necessary. If we are to do this, then there is a series of questions which must be answered. Is this in our national interest? In particular, is there a direct threat to the British people? Is there a comprehensive plan for dealing with this threat? Is the military element necessary? Is it necessary for us to take part in military action? Is it legal for us to take part? Will we be doing so with the support of local partners? And will doing this add up to a moral justification for putting the lives of British servicemen and women on the line? And above all, do we have a clear idea of what a successful outcome will look like? And are we convinced that our strategy can take us there? Is there a threat to the British people? The answer is yes. ISIL has already murdered one British hostage and is threatening the lives of 2 more.
2 questions is now put to...
Air and missile strikes thought to be carried out by U.S.-led forces hit oil fields and Daesh bases in the eastern Syria overnight and early today. The United States has been bombing bases of the Qaeda splinter group in Iraq since last month. The airstrikes early today hit Daesh bases and positions on the outskirts of the city of Al-Mayadin in Deir ez-Zor province. An earlier airstrike hit El Tanaq oil field area in the province, while apparent missile strikes also thought to be carried out by U.S.-led forces hit the Al-Quraya area, also in Deir ez-Zor. Strikes also hit areas southeast of the city of Haska, close to Syria's border with Iraq. They targeted Daesh State, Al-Qaeda's Nusra Front, and other militants. The number of people who sought asylum in industrial countries in the first half of the year rose 24% compared to the same period last year, mainly because of the conflict in Syria. The Office of the UN High Commissioner for Refugees said in Geneva, at the current rate, industrialized nations in North America, Europe, and the Asia-Pacific region can expect to see the highest number of asylum claims in 20 years. Syrians accounted for 15% of asylum seekers. Although many went to Northern and Western Europe, the number of Syrians who have fled to neighboring countries is much larger. Afghans, Iraqis, and Eritreans also accounted for large numbers of asylum seekers between January and June. Still to come in our news bulletin. The Japanese bullet train connected Tokyo and Osaka 50 years ago, covering the distance of 515 kilometers in a whopping 2.5 hours. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. Around 700 of Taliban fighters have stormed a strategic district in Afghan province southwest of the capital and are on the verge of capturing it. The Ghazni provincial government has lost contact with the police in the province's western district of Arjistan. Ghazni is on the main highway linking Kabul to southern Afghanistan, where the Taliban have been making advances in recent months. The attack began about 5 days ago, and early reports were that more than 100 people have been killed, including 15 who were beheaded by the militants. Senior Ukrainian and Russian military officials met today to mark out a proposed buffer zone in eastern Ukraine from which government forces and separatists will pull back artillery and other heavy armaments. Ukrainian military officials said a 3-party group, which also included 76 Russian military and representatives of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, met north of the city of Donetsk in eastern Ukraine. Envoys from Ukraine, Russia, and the OSCE agreed at a meeting in the Belarusian capital of Minsk on 19th of September to establish a 30-kilometer buffer zone and pull heavy weaponry out of the area to build on a ceasefire that was declared on the 5th of September. 50 years ago, the first bullet train pulled out of Tokyo Station and hurled across the countryside, heralding Japan's arrival as a modern economic powerhouse with a transport system soon to become the envy of the world. More details in the following report.
It may have been around for 50 years, but high-speed rail still holds the Japanese in awe. At this museum in Tokyo, young enthusiasts know all about the legendary bullet trains.
The Super Komachi is a beautiful color. And I really like the way the Hayabusa's carriages are coupled.
One day I want to drive the Shinkansen.
The first bullet train, or Shinkansen, entered into service in 1964, a week before the Tokyo Olympic Games. It symbolized Japan's economic and social renaissance less than 20 years after the devastation of World War II. Today, the museum's director, a former railway engineer, recalls that period with fondness.
The Shinkansen's goal was to become the fastest train in the world. It gave hope to the Japanese and helped them to look to the future.
It was revolutionary stuff at the time, a train capable of more than 200 kilometers an hour. And now the bullet train makers want to ferry passengers at speeds in excess of 500 kilometers an hour by using magnet-propelled trains which hover 10 centimeters above the tracks. In 2045, they aim to cut journey times between Tokyo and Osaka from the current 2.5 hours to a mere 67 minutes.
Beyond the speed of the Shinkansen, there is also its safety and comfort. It is part of Japanese culture, and I hope it always will be.
50 years in counting, Japan's bullet trains have yet to suffer a fatal accident and have carried several billion passengers.
Now for the general weather forecast around the Sultanate. Partly cloudy skies will prevail over the coastal areas of the Governorate of Dhofar and nearby mountains with chances of intermittent drizzle. Rest of the Sultanate will have clear skies with chances of scattered rains over the Hajar Mountains and the nearby areas. Winds will be northeasterly light to moderate along the coastal areas of Sea of Oman, while it will be southerly to southeasterly light to moderate over the rest of the Sultanate. Seas along the coast of the Sea of Oman will be moderate to rough with a maximum wave height of 2.5 meters, and along the rest of the coast it will be slight to moderate with a maximum wave height of 1.5 meters. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. A distinctive participation of Royal Oman Police music in the International Musical Display Festival in the Netherlands. With the approach of Eid al-Adha, an active commercial movement is witnessed in Eid Hapla in the wilaya of Nizwa.
Further radicalize young people.
And the British Prime Minister urges Parliament to vote in favor of Britain joining US-led airstrikes against Daesh militants in Iraq. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, it's good night.